Hello, this is Linda Vetras Nichols, evolutionaryhealer.com, and I have the most amazing person with me, Natalie Edwards. Welcome, Natalie.
Hi, Linda. It's an honor to be here.
And you're here from jolly old England, aren't you?
I am indeed. Cold, rainy London.
Our cold and rainy London, I hear
Yeah.
you. Well, Natalie, you have the most interesting story. I absolutely love your story. So I would just love it if you would share that with me because it's so much about getting out of your head and into your heart and even helping others to do that as well. So let our viewers know a little bit about you.
So I'm Natalie. I'm an empowerment coach for female entrepreneurs, and I I used to be I'm also doing forest yoga. So I used to be a forest yoga teacher. But my story really started when I was in a lot of pain. So I had scoliosis from being a teenager.
Wow.
And yeah, and I was diagnosed when I was 12, but at that time there wasn't really a lot of information about the condition, and I wasn't really given any tools to manage it. And I went through my life and basically, especially during my 20s, kind of ignored it.
Oh,
And the
wow.
pain, yeah, it wasn't great. The pain got worse when I was in a corporate career, and that was all
Mm,
fine, doing the kind of climbing the ladder, doing the corporate thing.
right.
But the more unhappy I became, the more tense my body became. And then it really got to a point where I really had to notice the scoliosis and actually start doing something about it. So
Right.
it was really sending me a lot of messages. On a
Mm,
practical level, it meant that my body wasn't going to cope with sitting at a desk all day for 9 hours a day, because I
right.
used to be an art director. But on
Mm,
a spiritual level as well, it was really asking me to come back to my body again and really understand my body and listen to what it needed. And for a long time, rather than doing the healing thing, really listening to it, what I did instead was I numbed out. And so being stuck in a corporate career that I didn't really enjoy very much, unfortunately, I got into kind of drugs and alcohol as a way of releasing that
wow.
lack of enjoyment. And obviously that, really made the pain get worse. And it kind of just
Mm,
culminated to a point when I thought, okay, I'm going to need to do something really drastic to kickstart my own healing process. And that's when I
wow.
found forest yoga and decided to train as a yoga teacher. And from there became a coach. That's the shortened version of the story anyway.
And what type of yoga? Say the yoga again.
So it's forest yoga. It is designed by a lady called Anna Forrest, who's based in the States. And it's a really remedial form of yoga because it really helps you drop into your body. It's not fast and furious like some of the other types of yoga. And it just really spoke to my body because a lot of my pain was in my neck and my shoulders. And one of
Yeah.
Anna's huge things was, relax your neck. Whereas other yoga teachers I've gone to were like, hold up your neck and pulling my neck up to the ceiling. And it didn't feel right for me. And I actually stopped doing yoga at one point because it kind of hurt me. And then I
Hmm.
found this practice and I was like, wow, it was all about modifying the poses, and it was all about staying in a pose until you found your own form of release. And so
Hmm.
Anna's all about playing with your edge and understanding the fight or flight response in the body and staying rather than running away from something. And
Right.
so she's taught me a lot of things about learning to listen to your pain and
Hmm.
be friends with it rather than being scared of it.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love that. And yeah, and so your thing is head to heart guidance for business and life. So feeling stuck is actually a message to be shared. I love that. We can just go right into your slides, but yeah, that's your message, isn't it? That's your
So,
message.
yeah, sure. It's exactly it. It's really, it comes from, that story that you mentioned where I just reached a point where I felt so stuck, and I had never I'd never been given or had never gone out and sought any tools to understand who I was as a person, what I wanted from life. But it was, like we said, obviously my feeling of stuck started in my body. And just the frustration in my life and in my relationships, and the frustration doing a job that I didn't enjoy, that wasn't in line with who I was all layered on top of the physical pain I was feeling. And so, yeah, it really has led me to believe that anytime we get to that level of frustration and stuck, it's an invitation for us to change something and do something different. And I think there are many of us that just go through life and we just tend to ignore that, or we do what I did, which is numb it out rather than feel how stuck we're feeling. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, I really believe that when you get to that point and you can't push through, it means that there's something in you that hasn't been shared or voiced. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, and it is your challenge to get out of your head and get into your heart, but that's what makes you so good at helping others to do that as well. And I love the fact that you're saying that it's, feeling stuck is like the wake up call, and actually there's a message to be shared. So, yeah, that's wonderful. I love that. All right. So, first thing, trust and nurture your spirit. What do you have to say about that? What is some of your advice on that?
Well, yeah, I love that we're talking about this, Linda, because I feel like the nurture word there is really key, because we're told, especially as women, we're told a lot about, self-care, you have to look after yourself, you have to love yourself. And that was something that I found really hard to do before I met Anna. In fact, I didn't really know that I didn't love myself and I didn't love my body, and I wasn't really caring for it in the way that I should, because I didn't really understand, how much I was in this kind of lack of deserving mode. And so I prefer the word nurturing and trusting yourself, trusting your spirit, because it's about just listening to what you need. But if people find the term self-love difficult, if they're in a place where they're not really loving themselves, then I always say, well, okay, how can you nurture yourself?
Right.
How can you nourish yourself? Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I think trusting and nurturing your spirit really means, going after what lights you up, and
Hmm.
remembering to and dropping the guilt around that as well. I think there's a huge piece around, it's okay to trust yourself, it's okay to do things that feel good, and then it's really okay to drop the guilt around feeling good about those things.
I love that. That's awesome. And then speak truthfully from your heart. So, how does that work when you're not up in your head, but you're actually speaking from your heart? Is that part of, you know, what makes you feel good and what makes you not feel so good? And you just share that in a loving way, or how do you see that?
Yeah, it's definitely speaking truthfully, and like you said, sharing what you're feeling in a loving, compassionate way, because
Mm.
we don't, it's funny, like we don't get given a handbook on communication with other people when we're in school. We should do, but we don't. And it's really hard to know when you're going through life and you're distracted by things, and you're not feeling your body properly, and you are in pain or you're under stress. It's hard to know how to communicate what you're feeling when you're stressed or you're anxious or you're disconnected from what you really want. And so, yeah, so I mean, again, a lesson that Anna taught me, a huge lesson, was, speaking from your heart. And she kind of did it from even a practical level to start with. She would encourage us to put our hand on our hearts before we spoke, take a breath, and then feel our heart beating and then speak. But ultimately, yeah, I think it's about learning how to speak to others with compassion rather than speaking in a reactive way or a passive aggressive way, and then also
Right.
learning how to speak to yourself with compassion as well, which is a lot of the time we don't do.
Yeah, absolutely. And, electricians know not to touch a live wire with their left hand because the electricity enters the body from the left side. So when I ask my clients to put their hand over their heart, I always have them use their left hand. And then when they're making decisions, use their other hand on their forehead so that now their whole brain, they've got the right and left side connected energetically, if you will. And
Yeah.
so it's left hand on the heart. I like all that heart stuff and the energy stuff and the vibration. It's great messaging. Get it from your heart into your head. I love it. Okay,
Yeah.
so stop editing yourself. That is a great line, and I've not heard anybody say that. So tell us what you mean by stop editing yourself.
Well, I'm really passionate about this because essentially that comes from what I've learned about the years that I completely edited the person that I was. And, you
Ah,
know, I went through life people pleasing essentially, and, you know, being a good girl and trying to make sure that everyone else is looked after before myself. And in the process of doing that, I really edited down the person I was and cut and pasted myself to fit into like a role, or whether that's a job role, or, you know, something that's someone that somebody wanted me to be in a relationship. And it wasn't until I took a moment to step back and realize, well, what is it that I want, that I realized I'd spent my entire life editing myself for other people. And it's sometimes that serves you, you know, if you've been doing that and it's kept you safe, and that's fine. But there comes a point when, you know, I think because I'd done it so much that it will manifest as some sort of physical pain in your body, because you'll be so frustrated because you haven't been able to speak from your heart, speak truthfully, and not edit what you're saying, as you've been going through life and making decisions.
right. And your wake up call when your pain got so intense, you woke up to the fact that you were in a lousy relationship, you were in a job that wasn't serving you, and and then you just went boom, and you changed it all. I mean, and you humbled yourself to even moving in with your mom at 30,
Yeah,
to sort it out and just get your life back on track. And wow, it did, like on all levels, that you're in a wonderful relationship now. You were able to figure out even your physical issues. You're not living with mom, is that right? You're still,
that's right. Yeah, I'm not living with mom
yeah.
anymore.
No. So that's very exciting. And you're a coach, you're an entrepreneur, you have a business of your own, and you're your own boss. And I love that. And you're doing it from your heart. If you were in your head, you'd still be in that corporate job, but you were willing to drop into that painful body to
Mm.
check things out, get things shifted. And that's just a beautiful story. I love it. Okay, so what you have to say is valuable. Okay, so tell us more about that sort of idea.
I think, I mean, again, I think this is really about and it does take a while, but it's understanding that no matter what anybody told you, or no matter what story or belief you've enrolled in that's either been inherited or you've made up yourself, it's
Mhm.
really important to remember and understand that everybody, no matter how they feel about themselves, has a really it has value. You know, each one of us has this, you know, has a message to share, a story to share, and
Mhm.
we hold so much more value than we realize. And I think that that was something I always used to do, because I was so in my head, because I wasn't in my body, and I was editing myself because I felt, you know, I didn't really always know how to communicate properly. I wouldn't always think my opinion was of value, so I often wouldn't offer it. And then as soon as I started speaking up and I started writing more, and, you know, I changed things, and I left that role that wasn't working for me, and like you said, got into my body more.
Yeah.
I realized that there was a lot that I had to say, and it was of value to lots of people. And, you know, obviously when you do that, not everybody is going to want to hear what you have to say, but, you know, the more you speak from your heart, the more you realize you have a lot of value to give to others, and there's people out there that are in need of your help. So
Mhm.
that is a really
Oh,
important piece.
yes, I love it. There's that nurturing energy, more feminine energy, like I'm cold, okay, put on a sweater, and that self-talk.
Yeah.
And then there's also, just taking action and knowing that, like you said, what you have to offer is valuable. And that's more stepping into the masculine energy in protection and in like standing up for self. And yeah, I love it. Okay. So pain is a messenger. We've talked a lot about that already here and there. How about anger in the body? Tell us about that.
Yeah, anger I think is really powerful. It's really important to understand, because, you know, we need anger. It's a healthy emotion when we understand it, but it's when it festers, and it, you know, if we hold anger or any kind of frustration or any kind of misalignment in the body, then it's toxic. It really is. And it certainly was for me. And I didn't realize how much anger I had until I trained with Anna, and she really helped me understand how to release it. And
Good.
I think with scoliosis patients especially some of the research that I've done and different yoga teachers have done, it's, they say a lot of the anger, a lot of the curves in the spine have come from, anger that's manifested when you're younger, when you haven't been able to communicate how much pain you're in. And
Yep.
so it's powerful and you need to find a way to release it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, my spine has the curves too, and I also had a gymnastics accident, but yeah, that whole right side of my body just it gets in pain so easily, and when I'm not speaking my truth, all the more, and even like my liver is where anger is held.
Yeah.
And so, for me to be able to even have a glass of wine, anger will come out the next day. So yeah, so I'm working on
Mm.
that too. I love it. Okay, and love what you have. That sounds like kind of gratitude. What do you have to say about the love what you have?
Yeah, this has been a big one for me because for years I didn't have a single ounce of self-love, love for my body, any form of gratitude for it. I was always led to believe I was too tall, too skinny, not curvaceous enough, and then I found out I had something wrong with my spine and I felt kind of, crooked and imperfect and all the kind of things that a lot of, teenage girls feel. But it never really dissipated for me. It seemed to hang around. And so, yeah, it's really, really important to get a hold on where those, if you don't have that love for yourself and you're not appreciating your body for the way it is and practicing gratitude for it, then again, that's going to manifest in anger, frustration, physical sensations of, being tight and tense. So practicing gratitude is huge. And one way that you can do that is to spend time in front of the mirror. Really simple, but spend time in front of the mirror, even just sitting down for 5 minutes or even 2 minutes every morning and just telling yourself that you do appreciate yourself and you're doing your best.
I love it. And another one is just taking credit for what you did get done in a day. Sometimes we're so hard on ourselves. We didn't get
Yeah.
our to-do list done or whatever. Don't put so much on. Just stay consistent with moving forward and get something, even if it's a something, not even plural, you
Yeah,
got done. Feel good about it. Okay. So
totally.
flow, yeah, flow equals soulful aligned action. Okay. So tell us a little bit more about that. Flow equals soulful aligned action.
So I guess what I mean here is the more we can let go of struggle, the more we can stay in flow. Because for years I spent a long time thinking that struggle was where I was supposed to be, when obviously for any of us it isn't, and it's okay to feel easy about things.
It's so
Um,
spiritual, darling. Struggle is just so spiritual.
it's just, yeah, like, we don't have to be tortured and we don't have to everything doesn't have to be so hard. But yeah, the more we can let go of that and get into flow. So what we mean by flow obviously is, finding ease, finding joy, knowing that it's okay to feel that ease and joy. The more we will be taking this soulful aligned action. And I guess what I mean by that is, when we're in flow and we're feeling happy and when we're dropping guilt and struggle around feeling that happiness, then we're going
That's
to
a
make
big
all our decisions from that place. Yeah,
mhm.
and they'll be good decisions.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so struggle versus flow. What do you have to say?
Yeah, I guess I just sort of slightly repeated myself, didn't I? But yeah,
That's
I mean,
okay.
the struggle versus flow thing is interesting because I think it's about being noticing when you are in either, because obviously sometimes things are going to get, the lid's going to boil on the pot. We're going to get busy like we all do, but it's just really noticing, okay, how am I approaching this? Am I approaching these tasks or these decisions from a place of fear and anxiety and worry and kind of stress? Or am I approaching them from a place of, okay, what's working? What do I feel good about? Is this lighting me up? And, something I learned from Anna, but a lot of my other teachers as well, is, just like, does this light me up? Does this serve me? If the answer is no, then cut it. And
Right,
it took me a while to get that decisive, but I tell you, the more you can do it, the more you'll feel in flow and you'll notice when you're in struggle.
right. And you mentioned fear, and I just got a journal entry from a client, and it was fear was spelt uh with a G. Yeah, our clients,
Oh,
yeah, my clients and I work with my husband, so our clients, they journal from their soul. And so there's no correcting, the mistakes are very welcome because then we know they're really at that level of their soul. But it was so cute because the next few words was the word grow. And it's like, there's a new word in the world, Greer.
That's so
The
funny.
fear that comes from the growth, right? So,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm stealing that.
that's brilliant.
It is. Okay. So let go of outcomes. So let go of fear because it's really only Greer, right? So let go of outcomes and excuses. Tell us a little bit more about that.
This was something that I really didn't understand, and I didn't know how to do until I started working with a coach myself. And it's really about letting go of fear, but also surrendering, which is something that I think especially women have not been told that they're allowed to do. And so what we do is we tend to, especially when we found something that we really love, we tend to make lots of goals around it and set all these sometimes unrealistic goals. And that's fine, that's okay to do. But
Yeah.
it's about not becoming obsessed with the outcomes of it. Because it's like if we start being like, well, why isn't this working? I put so much effort into this and it's not working. It's about letting go of that, and I guess as well, letting go of excuses is a really big one. And I think
Yep.
we tend to drop into self-sabotage when we're making excuses, and we really don't need to.
Right. Absolutely. Excuse me. Okay. And then show yourself the mirror.
Yeah, show yourself the mirror. What I mean here is really just keep asking yourself, how am I showing up? How do I want to show up? And then how am I actually showing up? Because sometimes I think, and again, I don't want to keep saying it, but especially women, we're not very nice to ourselves. And so something I always say to my clients and I ask myself is, if things are getting really stressful and tense, like how would you what would you advise your best friend to do on this? How would you talk to your best friend? Most of the time, internally, we're not often talking to ourselves in a nice way if we're having a difficult day. And it's really just about being your own best friend and showing yourself the mirror and being like, do I really want to show up, making excuses or living in fear, or do I want to show up, expansive and in a creative way and in a loving and joyful way? I mean, I know which one I prefer.
Right. Yeah, and that comes down to the fear too, because fear is not expansive. Fear is contraction, right? So
Right.
again, the whole body messaging thing, if you're contracted, then, look for some fear and then you can ask yourself questions. And I even like to go, I love the friend idea, and I like to even sometimes, and it's really more my husband suggesting it, what would you say to your clients? Talking to myself like I'm my client. But just that opening up, that expansion, you can do it with your body and it actually changes your mindset too. I love that. Show yourself
Totally.
the mirror. That's awesome. All right. So to review, trust and nurture your spirit. Pain is a messenger, and to remember that. And then flow is really soulful, aligned action. Getting into that more masculine energy is, sometimes how I talk about it. So yeah, so summarize that for us, Natalie, from your experience.
Sure. And so, trusting and nurturing your spirit it's just the key to it's the key to staying in flow, but it's the key to everything really. If we're not romancing our spirit and getting in touch with what lights us up, we're dragging our energy or using our energy on things that don't light us up. And, the path and the way forward becomes less clear when we're in that place. And so that comes first. You really want to try and drop into yourself more, trust yourself more, and nurture that spirit on a mental, physical, and emotional / spiritual basis every single day. And drop any guilt that you have around feeling that you're not allowed to do that. That's a really important piece. And then listening to pain, because it is a messenger. It's definitely been my strongest messenger. And then
Mine
encourage
too.
anyone, yeah, like it exactly like it's for most of us, and encourage anyone listening who's been ignoring anything going on in their body to really just take a moment and be like, okay, what's this trying to tell me? Because there'll be a story behind that pain, there'll be a reason you're feeling it, and often it's something that can be healed on an emotional level. So it's really, really powerful to listen to that pain and see what it's trying to tell you. And then with getting into flow, it kind of it starts with, nurturing yourself, asking yourself what you need. But you really want to move towards being in a place of flow. Life doesn't have to be a struggle. It doesn't have to be hard. You don't have to feel guilty about things feeling easy. And from that place, it's so much more easy to make decisions, because if you're in flow, you have certainty, you have clarity, you have confidence, and you'll be able to take this aligned action that comes from your soul. It comes from this soul level, and everything feels right. There's never any indecision. And so try and move towards that place of flow. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay, and you have a wonderful gift for everybody too, a weekly dose of loving inspiration. That's great for self-care right there, and self-love, ever learning self-love. And then you have a free clarity meditation. That's awesome. Who couldn't use a clarity meditation? That's great. So thank you so much. Is there anything you want to say, anything more about your gift?
No, just those weekly emails are like little love letters from me. So I'm not a spammer, and they're
I'm
really
not a
just trying to
spammer.
be, like you said, loving inspiration. And yeah, the clarity meditation is great. It's because it's only 5 minutes, really easy to do. So yeah, and I love to hear from anyone if they have any questions.
Oh, good. All right. Well, thank you for that. So the link is actually back in the email where you clicked out to get to this interview. So there's Natalie's picture and bio, and below that is the link to her gift of a weekly dose of loving inspiration and her free clarity meditation. You won't want to miss that. All right. Well, thank you so much, Natalie. This has been awesome. I have really enjoyed connecting with you and putting all of this together.
Thank you so much, Linda. It's an absolute honor, and thank you so much to everyone that's watched it, and really great to be here.
Awesome. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.